Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Hikes, Western United States and Canada. About 3 months ago, I rediscovered some journals I wrote, or diaries, if you want to go down that route. I wrote when I was at university for 4 years back between 93 and 97. And then when I found work, I stopped writing the journals. But I rediscovered these journals about 3 months ago. And when I was going through what I was thinking, what I was doing, I found it really illuminating. Not only that, it brought back a flood of memories. And there's so many things I had completely forgotten about that just came flooding back to me. And in a way, I sort of wish I had continued to write these journals after 1997 because I probably have forgotten a lot of stuff after that. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to go back to writing journals, but I'm going to do more videos starting with this 9-week trip I'm undertaking in Western United States and Canada. In fact, I do define it as a hiking trip. No through hiking. I'm not a big fan of through hiking. And I do, however, love day hiking. So, a carefully planned trip over 63 days where I'll be doing one hike per day. In fact, I should say at least one hike per day because there is a possibility I'll be doing numerous hikes on some days. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'll just go through my plans, a brief itinerary, and what tools I used to develop or create these plans, and also what I intend to do over that 9-week period. Okay, so on September 2nd, 2025, which is a Tuesday, and depending on when you're watching this, it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be yesterday. I'm not even sure when I'm going to be releasing this, but it's on a Tuesday. I fly out of the fair shores of Australia for this 9-week hiking adventure in Western United States and Canada. I've actually been planning this for a few years, and it started to come to fruition in September last year, 2024, when I was given a bit of a tap on the shoulder by management at work who said, "You have a lot of leave. You should take some leave." And I realized I had more than 1 year of leave up my sleeve. And I went, why not just take a year off? And as soon as I realized I can take a year off, I thought, hello, let's do this really big trip that I've wanted to do. And many of the hikes I'm doing, I discovered within the last 7 years. In fact, some of these hikes I discovered about 7 years ago after the last time I went over there. And I came back and went, oh, what about this hike? Oh, wish we did this hike. Oh, wish I did this hike. So I am going back to an area of the world that I do enjoy. I've been exploring this part of the world about 3 times in the past. And most of the hikes are new hikes, hikes I want to do, I never knew existed until I use all trails. In fact, most of the hikes, in fact, I'd say 90% of the hikes, maybe 95% of the hikes, because there are some I already knew about, but 95% of the hikes I discovered through all trails. So I'll discuss all trails in a second. Okay, so no through hiking. All these hikes are day hikes. The longest hike at this point in time is 39 kilometers, but more than likely I'll keep that down to 31 kilometers. So there are quite a few hikes that are between 30 and 35 kilometers long, but I had to carefully plan this so I was able to do one hike per day because I will be doing a lot of driving. In fact, this is the map of all the hikes I'm doing, and it does cover a large area. So I had to carefully plan this hike so I could do at least one hike per day. That was my goal. So I'll go briefly through the tools I use, and then after that, I'll just go through what I intend to do, just sort of documenting my trip. Okay, so the tools I have or did use. The first tool I have to mention is All Trails. This was really the main source of discovering hikes. I've been using this for about 10 years. And in fact, you can develop your own list. This is my list called USA and Canada 2025. And this has, in fact, all the hikes I'm doing on this particular trip. Now, I am a subscriber of All Trails, and there's a few reasons why I do love this particular site. Now, I'll just go quickly through what I really like about All Trails. Now, the first hike I'm doing. Now, This particular hike could be the first hike, it could be the last hike. Now, the reason this is going to be my first hike or last hike is dependent on if there's any significant delays in me arriving in the United States. Now, my first hike I'm intending that to be on September the 3rd. Now, if I'm delayed and my first hike is pushed back to September 4, that means I won't be able to do this hike on the first day, but it will be done on the last day. So it's all dependent on how or what time I arrive in the United States. So this hike is called Mount San Antonio and Mount Baldy Notch. The locals refer to it as just Mount Baldy. It is the highest mountain in LA County at 10,000 feet. And that is one of the reasons I want to do this hike. It's sort of like an acclimatization hike. Now, the second hike I am doing is more of a acclimatization hike. But I'll just show you through this particular hike what I like about all trails. The first thing is there's a map, and you can actually download this map. And I do that to my watch. Now, this map is not absolutely perfect, but it's a good guide to where to go, that sort of thing. Now, this is a loop, and one of the things I like about all trails is you get a lot of reviews, a lot of comments, and a lot of comments about which way to go. Should you do counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, that sort of thing. So I actually haven't figured it out just yet or decided just yet which way I go. In all trails, it's counterclockwise. But a lot of people do prefer going clockwise because you do the really steep bit first. Anyway, so I do like loops, something else I should mention. And you'll see a common theme among all these hikes I am planning. Now, I'll probably say what that common theme is right now. I am climbing up mountains and I love walking along ridges. In fact, in this particular hike, there is a ridge called Devil's Backbone. And that makes me giddy just thinking about walking along Devil's Backbone. Just the name, Devil's Backbone. Plus, the height of this mountain, a brilliant views depending on smoke and whatnot. But that's not the main reason I'm doing this hike. It's just an acclimatization hike. And even if I do this hike last, it's okay because it's near the airport or nearer the airport than any other hike. And again, last hike. So that's one of the reasons I like it. You have nice maps. Another reason I love all trails, apart from the maps, you get a lot of reviews, you get ratings. They also have a filter. In fact, I found a lot of these particular hikes just through using filters in all trails. Weather conditions, you can actually upgrade your subscriber thingy, whatever, and get trail conditions. I don't think I'm going to do that. A lot of comments or reviews. You also get photos, that sort of thing. I'll talk about photos and video in a second. The other thing I really like about all trails is this 3D view of the hike. I've actually used this on occasion, just particularly when I'm not really sure about a hike. So you just zoom in. Yep, there it is. So you get a nice little 3D picture of what the hike is like. Now, this one's going to go counterclockwise because that's the way it is in all trails. And you can just see, well, maybe you can't see, but if you do follow this all the way through, you get to see how high it is, all the views, different directions. You can actually change this if yourself. You can change the viewpoint if you really, really want to. So that's another reason I like all trails, is just that little feature. Okay, so I definitely used or found the vast majority of hikes through all trails using the filter they do have. Now, the other tool I did use is Road Trippers. This is really good because to really fine tune the schedule to get to one hike per day, I needed to find hikes every so often in the direction I was heading. So for instance, I was going up up north through California. Oh no, I didn't want to click on that. Through sort of Eastern California. So the first area I'm exploring will be the Eastern Sierras, which I've never done before. And then sort of going along, so Yosemite, Lake Tahoe, Lassen National Park. And so I needed to find hikes every so often. So the drives between hikes wasn't that long. And that was a very important point. Now, even if I do have a long drive, which does happen on occasion, I was able to find these smaller hikes, these shorter hikes that I was able to do before I do a long drive. So the really good thing about Road Trippers is that they have times in here. So for instance, I'll go to one random day that there was sort of a long drive, I suppose. Where's a random day with a long drive? Okay, so here's a good one. So for instance, on Saturday, October 4, well, actually on Friday, October 3rd, I'll be staying at Missoula, and then I'll be driving a couple of hours to a hike I'll be doing before I get to another town called Chalice, which is 5 hours and 25 minutes of driving, plus the hike I'm doing would take about 4 hours. So combined about 9 hours and 25 minutes. And I really ideally wanted to limit myself to about 10 hours per day of driving and hiking. I was able to do that most of the time, but there was an occasion I had to, my days are going to be a little bit longer than 10 hours, and quite a few days where it's going to be a little bit less than 10 hours, maybe as low as 7 hours or so. Anyway, so that is why I really like road trippers, because you can actually see how long your day is going to be driving and also hiking. The other thing, I had to assume how long the hike is going to be. And the assumptions I made, and this is going to be a fairly broad assumption, is I was able to do 20-minute kilometers. Now, the reason 20-minute kilometers is that gives me a little bit of time. I can definitely walk faster than that, but a lot of these hikes are going uphill, so a lot of elevation gain. And I mean a lot of elevation gain. For instance, this particular hike I'm doing first, 1,239 meters of elevation gain, and that is sort of normal. That is sort of normal. The vast majority of my hikes would have elevation gains above, we'll say, 800 meters, and the highest elevation gain, if I'm going to do it, is about 3,300 meters. If I do it, that's a big if. In fact, it might be the last hike. It's called Cactus to the Clouds. It's called that for a reason, Cactus to the Clouds. Anyway, so that was a really road trippers. You do have to pay or subscribe to get this fine of detail. Now, I did use road trippers in my trip in 2017, but you couldn't split it in days. You had to have separate days, if that makes sense. So it doesn't cost a lot. Doesn't cost a lot at all. Okay, so road trippers. So I use All Trails, road trippers, and another thing I used is YouTube. Yes, YouTube. And the reason I use YouTube is I just wanted to see videos of all the places I'm going to. Not all of them, but I just wanted to see in my own two eyes. And a lot of times I would not be sure about a hike, and then I look at a video of that hike and I go, oh yeah, I have to do this. I have to do this. Now, a hike in person is going to be different than a hike you might see on video, but you can get a fairly good clue what a hike is going to be, or how you might like a hike. So I did actually use YouTube a fair bit in just researching these hikes. Okay, so I'm just going to go briefly through some of the hikes I'm planning to do. Not all of them. It's going to take ages, like an hour. So that is the first hike. The second hike I'm planning to do is actually Cottonwood Lakes. Now, this was originally the first hike I was going to do, and it was my acclimatizing hike. In fact, this would have been the hike with the least amount of elevation gain, but the hike starts above 10,000 feet and remains between 10,000 and 12,000 feet. But I discovered that if I kept on going, I could go to a mountain that has an elevation above 14,000 feet, and that is Mount Langley. And if I do that hike, I'm only doing 31 kilometers. And I was thinking, ooh, I could try this hike. Now, I wanted also to test myself in regards to altitude sickness. Now, last time I was in the United States, I didn't have any altitude sickness. The highest we got to was maybe 12,000 feet. Now, back in 1998, first time I went really hiking, I did get altitude sickness, but last time nothing. So I really want to see how I physically handle these sort of hikes, and whether I need a little bit more time. So this is an important hike. In fact, the first two hikes are quite important. Engaging my physical reaction to elevation. So what I'm doing with this particular hike is I do have turn back points. So a couple of turn back points, and if I feel bad, turn back, go back. So the first one is at the lakes. The second one is at a pass. And the third one is at the top, which I'll be turning back anyway. So the ultimate goal for this hike is to get to the top of Mount Langley. But otherwise, it's going to be a successful trip no matter what, because I'll be able to gauge how my body physically reacts to altitude. At this point in time, I think I'll be fine. And the other thing I should also mention is I know how to, without taking any drugs, I think it's called Domoxin or something. There is this drug you can use to not treat altitude sickness, but sort of decrease the effects of altitude sickness beforehand. But I have found that if you drink plenty of water, even if you take an aspirin, that will help, and also eat a fair bit of food. So, and the other thing I was thinking is, when I thought I had altitude sickness back in 1998, I didn't have a headache. I just felt lethargic, And I'm thinking possibly that it wasn't altitude sickness, it was just that I was fatigued. The headache is a big thing. And there is a bit of confusion whether the headache is caused by altitude sickness or just dehydration, hence keeping highly hydrated. The next hike I'm doing, I'm going to mention this hike. It's called Ray Lakes via Kearsarge Pass Trail. This is 39 kilometers long, but I intend to only do 31 kilometers. There's 2 passes in this. It eventually gets to the PCT. In fact, yeah, PCT. But going all the way to Ray Lakes, and most people who go to Ray Lakes are multi-day hikers or backpackers, that sort of thing, or people doing the PCT. So in this point, my turn back would be at another pass called, I think it's called, here it is, Glen Pass. And if I get to the top of Glen Pass, that would, and turn back, that would be like 31 kilometers, which is fair. I think I can definitely do that. But 39 kilometers might be stretching it a fair bit. But this is, in fact, one of the original hikes I discovered via All Trails. So I definitely want to do this hike. Okay, what else? So at this point, doing a lot of Eastern or East Sierras. This is a part of the world I've not explored before. Going back into Yosemite, doing a few hikes there. I've already done Clouds Rest in the past, but this would be not. In fact, you can see behind me right now, that's Cloud Rest. But you can see a bit of snow. So we did this hike just after it had snowed, and now there will be no snow. This is the start of September. This was at the end of September when it snowed, which is amazing, and hopefully there'll be no snow. So I just want to see what Clouds Rest is like without snow. Same thing is true for Lake Tahoe, Mount Tallac. We did that the day after a big snowstorm, so trudging through snow. It was fabulous views upon that particular mountain, so really looking forward to doing that without any snow at the top. Okay. So then you can just see it by this little All Trails map that you just see continually doing hikes every so often. Now at this point, La Seine Volcanic National Park, I'm doing 2 hikes in one day. This could be a little bit too ambitious. Both these hikes are fairly short in terms of 8 kilometers long, but a little bit of driving in between. So this has a potential to be like an 11 or 12 hour day. Now this is in September, start of September. So about 13 hours of daylight, 12 to 13 hours of daylight. So I should be able to handle that. Now, the next hike I'll mention is South Sister. I need a permit for this hike. South Sister in Oregon, near Bend. And originally I was going to fly into LA on Wednesday, the 4th of September. But to get a permit for South Sister, you have to apply with 10 days or 2 days before the hike. And 10 days before the hike is September the 3rd, which is Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Now, if I was flying into LA, I would have arrived after 7 a.m. So I wanted to be in LA at 7 a.m. on September 3rd so I can apply for this particular permit. The reason I wanted to do that is because you have 2 chances, 10 or 2 days before. Plus, this is a Saturday, and there's going to be a lot more competition for these permits. I think they give out 60 initially and then 40, or I forget which. It's about 100 permits, 60 on 10 days before and about 40 2 days before. Okay, the next hike I'll talk about is Mount St. Helens. I got a permit for this one. This is one you do need a permit for, and I'm doing that on a Monday, and I'm very thankful I got a permit. I'm not sure if I'm going to love this hike. I definitely love the views, and the reason I'm not sure I like it is because there's a little bit of scree on this on the videos I have seen. Okay. Oh, I'll mention this one. So there is about there's 2 hikes I've created myself in All Trails. This means no one else has created these trails. And this is one trail or hike I've created myself. It's called, well, I've called it Goats Rock Wilderness. That's because it's the area. But the whole reason I want to do this hike is because this is along the PCT, and there's an area on this hike. I forget what it's called. Again, it's along a ridge. It's along a ridge. And that's a very important thing for me. Walking along ridges, walking to top of mountains, very important. So that's the common theme among all these hikes. And I really wanted to do this particular hike. It just looks amazing. Looks amazing. So I created this hike in All Trails, which you can do, which is good because I really want to do that hike. This is why it's colored in blue. Another hike I really want to do is Burroughs Mountain. This is on the northeast side of Mount Rainier. I've done 2 hikes on the northwest side and 1 hike on the southern side. now on the northeast side, and really looking forward to do this hike as well. In fact, I'm looking forward to do all these hikes. Should I mention Kendall Catwalk Trail? And I'll show you actually with one simple picture why I chose this hike. Look at this. The hike has been created in a cliff, sort of in a cliff. You can just see this trail along a cliff. As soon as I saw this photo, yeah, I'm doing this. The other thing is this is along the PCT, and this part of the PCT was the most expensive to create. Anyway, and there's a reason it's called Catwalk. Anyway, the next day is a really interesting one. I'm talking about most of these trails. The next one is called the Enchantments Traverse. The Enchantments Traverse, just the name, Enchantments Traverse. Now, this is another blue one. This is sort of a hike I've created, but the reason I've just subtly changed this hike is because it's not a complete loop. And what I mean by that, this is the normal trail, the Enchantments Traverse. So you do have to sort of get get somehow from one point to the next. A lot of people will park their car at one end and have another car and drive it to the start or drive it to the end. There are taxis that can take you from the starting point or the end point to the starting point, but they cost like $30 to $60. And the other thing I have read and heard is that the last part of this particular hike is quite boring. So the last 10 to 12 kilometers might be quite boring. And what I thought was, why do the boring bit when I can just backtrack on myself and do the core of the enchantments twice? So that is what I've done. That is what I'm going to do. The core of the enchantments twice. It's 3 kilometers longer than the Enchantments Traverse, but I miss all the boring stuff. So looking forward to that one as well. And in fact, after this, I go to North Cascades National Park. I've never been here before. And funny enough, I've decided to do 3 hikes in this area, but only one hike is actually in the national park itself. The other 2 hikes are just outside, but all 3 hikes, particularly the southern 2 ones, 2 hikes I really want to do. Anyway, so that's that. Panorama Ridge. Oh, yes. Another hike I'm really looking forward to do. Oh, it's just one hike after the next that I'm really looking forward to. Now, the next day, I'm going to be doing a long drive. Now, the hike I really wanted to do, which is called Joffrey, I think it's called Joffrey. Yeah, Joffrey Lakes. It's closed. And another good thing about all trails is you can see if a trail is closed. So this particular trail is closed for a month. And I think they do it every single year. I could be mistaken, but it is closed for a month, so I can't do that. But what are we doing on this day? Because it is a long drive from Whistler all the way to Revelstoke. It's, was that 6-hour drive? Let's have a look. Where is it? It's about a 6-hour drive. That's from Pemberton. So we'll say about 6.5-hour drive from Whistler, which means I've got about a 4-hour period or 4-hour window when I can do a hike based off my 10 hours per day. So even though it's one of my longest drives, it's only 6 hours. And there's a couple of hikes in the Revelstoke area that I can do. So I haven't quite decided yet which hike I'm going to do. But then the next day, another hike this is near the top of my list. It's called Abbott Ridge Trail. Ridge again. It's in the Glacier National Park of Canada. And yes, anyway, I'm not going to talk about this one. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, or my plans to document all these hikes in a second or so. And then we go to Banff National Park. I have 3 hikes planned in this area. All I can say is about these 3 hikes is there's a hike called Lake Ahara Alpine Route and Opabin Lakes. Everything I've heard and read and seen, which is the most important thing, I'll probably define this hike as one of the best hikes in this whole area, if not the best hike. But the interesting thing about this hike is there is a road to get to the start point. There is like a lodge and camping grounds. But this particular road is off limits to private vehicles. There is a bus that goes, I think maybe 3 or 4 times a day, there's a bus. But you do have to apply for a permit. I'm pretty sure it's a lottery, so you're not guaranteed to get a permit. So the chances of you doing this hike are pretty slim, particularly in advance, you have to know. But the interesting thing about this hike is they will let you walk along the road to do the hike. You can do that. You can walk or run along this road to the hike, and it's fine. And if there's room on the bus when it leaves in the afternoon, they you can give them $10 and they'll give you a ride back. You can't do that on the way in. You can't just get there and give them $10 and they'll give you a lift. That is a no-no. But on the way back, they'll give you a lift for $10. So there's a chance that I might be doing 20 kilometers this day or 30 kilometers, depending on whether I can get a bus back and also depending on what times the buses go. Anyway, so this is actually one of the hikes I'm looking forward to the most. And I'm going to be saying that a lot. Okay, now we're going to go south. I'm going to miss all these hikes. We really wanted to do a hike in Waterton National Park. I'm not. This was one of the hikes I did leave out. So I did leave out a few hikes that I wanted to do, and this was one of them. It's called Cripps Lake, I think. It's Cripps Lake or something like that. In fact, I can tell you right now. Yeah, Cripps Lake. Yeah, so the reason I've decided not to do this hike is because there is a boat. You have to catch a boat. And so all the people get off the boat at the same time. And walking along this path at the same time as all these other people was actually a little bit of a turn-off for me. So that was actually one of the reasons I decided not to do this hike instead of the Lake O'Hara hike. So I had to get rid of one hike to do Lake O'Hara, and that was it. Then I go to Glacier National Park. And the hike I really want to do here is Pitamakan Dawson Loop. Just have a look at this photo. Have a look at this photo. And if you have a look at the map, you can actually see why I want to do this hike. No duh. You're walking along ridges. You walk along this, it's a loop, by the way, it's a loop, and you're walking along this ridge for the longest time. And I have seen videos on this. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that one by a lot. And then we'll go south from there. I won't talk about any of, I'm doing a few hikes in Idaho for the first time. I won't talk about those, including, even though I said I wasn't going to talk about it, including the highest mountain in Idaho, Mount Bora. I'm doing that one. I'm doing Mount Sacagawea. And then here's another blue one. So this is where I had the hardest time figuring out what to do. I really wanted to drive along the Beartooth Highway again. There is a chance it's going to be closed, so I do need an alternate route, which is easy. But I do have a couple of hikes I can do in there, including one I created myself, and I called it Tibbs Butte or Butte and via Garner Lake. Although I forgot to put the I in via. Anyway, but there's another hike called Twin Lakes Trail that looks interesting as well. Very short as 4 kilometers. Now, this was an interesting section, and I had to break up a section here into 2 days because it was going to be more than 12 hours, and I didn't want that. So the first section was going from, I think I'll be staying in Columbus, Montana, doing Beartooth Highway, and then staying in Cody. And then the next day, I'll be doing Avalanche Peak Trail again for the second time. And I might do a few other hikes in Yellowstone. Maybe I'll go see Old Faithful again. Why not? For the third or fourth time. Why not? And then the next day, I'll be doing another hike that is on top of my list. This is in Grand Tetons. I've never done a hike in Grand Tetons, and this will be Paintbrush Canyon, Cascade Canyon Loop. Again, loop, 30 kilometers long. The Cascade Canyon Trail is very popular. When I say popular, I mean it's beloved, that sort of thing. And I thought, why not just do a loop, including another canyon called Paintbrush? Again, rating of 4.9. Another reason I like war trails is they have ratings. 4.9. Okay, I found it really hard to find accommodation in this area, very expensive, and I've actually found some about an hour away from that hike in, what's this area called? Sort of in this wilderness area, Teton Wilderness. Yeah, there's this one lodge, and it was nicely priced. Long driving day the next day, but we'll be doing a short hike at the start of that day. And then interesting hike in southern Wyoming before I get to the Rocky Mountains National Park. Now, this is one of my favorite national parks, and I'll be doing 4 hikes in this park, including one I've done 3 times before. Yeah, 3 times before. And this particular hike, which is called Sky Pond, the Lock, and Timberline Falls. I've never been to the top pond. And there's a reason behind that. First reason was altitude sickness. Second time was sister altitude sickness. Third time was snowstorm. meant there's this little waterfall, and there's a little, I don't know what it is, trail up the waterfall, and it was all iced over. There's no way to get to the top pond. Very disappointed with that. Anyway, so I plan to do 4 hikes in this area, including 2 on the one day. So Sky Pond and then Hallett Peak. And funny enough, this Hallett Peak, if you have a look at the map, so Sky Pond goes sort of in the, I wouldn't call it a valley, and then the Hallett goes above the valley, which I'm looking forward to. Also, possibly doing Longs Peak. If I don't do Longs Peak, there's alternatives there as well, including Chasm Lake. And then on the eastern side, now this is dependent on whether Trail Ridge Road is open. There's a chance, if there's some early snow, it could be closed. But on the eastern side or western side, I want to do a hike there, and I've chosen Mount Ida. I've never done a hike on the or in the Western Rocky Mountains National Park. Now, we're in Colorado now, which means a lot of 14,000s, and I'm doing a lot of 14,000s. So Longs Peak could be the first one in this state, and then I'll be doing Torrey's and Gray's Peak, Mount Elbert, and Missouri, Belford, and Oxford. So there is potential I might be doing 7, maybe 8 14,000-foot mountains in Colorado. The reason I'm saying 8 is because if we go further south, here we go, there's Mount Sneffels. Now, at this point in time, the original hike I want to do, which is called Mount Sneffels via Blue Lakes Trail, is currently closed. I'm not sure when it's going to reopen. They were mentioning at the start of September. So I'm hoping it will be open by then. But alternative, I do have another route, but I really want to go to the Blue Lakes. And if I go this alternative route, I might not get up to Mount Sneffels, which is another 14,000 mountain. And also Blue Lakes and the other one just south of there called Island Lake and Ice Lake via Ice Lake Trails, 2 of the original trails I discovered. And then they're not in national parks or anything like that. They're just, but these are really highly thought of hikes. Now, at this point, I'm going back to Utah. And now, originally, I was going to go to New Mexico and Texas to climb the highest mountains in both of those respective states, so Mount Wheeler and Mount Guadalupe. Decided to slightly change, well, not slightly, I've decided to completely change my itinerary and go to Mesa Verde National Park, do a very short hike there, go back to Canyonlands, do a hike in the Needle section, never been there, do a couple of arch hikes, not in Arches National Park, go or drive along SR 128 or 90, I forget what it's a very nice drive along the river there, it looks spectacular, and then go to Salt Lake City to do a couple of hikes in the Wasatches, including one hike I can't pronounce, Mount Timpanogos. So do a couple of hikes there, then go into Nevada and do a few hikes in Nevada, in the Ruby Mountains Wilderness, and also in the Great Basin National Park. And also, I discovered this the other day. Apparently, one of these roads, which I'll be driving on, is called the loneliest road in the United States because it's not many people drive it. By the way, there's a Wawa Mountains Wilderness Study Area. There you go, Wawa. What else? Zion, doing observation point again, but from outside the park. Yeah, so parking outside the park, walking in to Zion. So I'm not going to go into Zion. Funny enough, I'm doing the same in Yosemite. I'm not going to Yosemite Valley at all. I don't want to deal with all that traffic. So this is an interesting one. And the reason I'm doing this is because the route up to observation point has been closed. Some damage or something. You can actually see it in all trails. It's all red. It's closed. It's closed. You can't do that. So the only way you can get to observation point is from outside the park. And I don't want to, I think Angel's Landing is now permitted. So there's a chance, even if I apply for a permit, I probably won't get it. Okay, and then what I'll do after that is Grand Canyon. Where is it? Where's Grand Canyon? There it is. Doing a hike along the way, a short hike. Now, this one's interesting. I've already done this before. So it's South Khabib, Phantom Ranch, and Bright Angel. Now, the problem with this hike is a lot of fires on the north side. And a lot of the trails are closed. So I've been looking at this particular page to do Grand Canyon National Park Trail enclosures. Now, there's a map here shows you which trails are closed. So I want to go down South Khabib Trail. I've already done this before. Go along River Trail, which is closed right now, and then go back up Bright Angel. Now, they are mentioning these are closed to maybe September 1st, October 1st. And I'm going to be doing this in October. So I'm hoping it'll be all open by the time I do the hike. If not, what I will do is I'll go down South Khabib Trail and then go back up. And I don't mind doing that because I'll tell you this, South Khabib Trail out of that and Bright Angel, yes. But I would like to do the loop. I would like to do the loop. Now, this will be the second time, if I can do that, it'll be the second time I've done that particular hike. Okay, and then Sedona, doing a few hikes in that area. Another hike where those firefighters got killed called the Granite Mountain Hotshots Memorial Trail. And then back to California. This is where it gets interesting. Now, if I don't do Mount Bordy first, I'll do it last. I'm definitely doing Vivian Creek Trail to the, what's it called? San Gorgonio Peak. And possibly might do a few hikes in Joshua Tree National Park if I don't decide to do this hike last. And this hike is called Cactus to the Clouds. This would be the most strenuous hike by far, maybe not by far. 3,240 meters of elevation gain, 31 kilometers long. So this has the potential to be my last hike, and I really hope it does, because by this stage, I'm hoping I'll be highly conditioned. Okay, so that's some of the hikes I'm doing. Took a little bit longer than I was planning to do. Okay, so I've gone brief. I was going to say I've gone briefly through my itinerary. That's not really true. What I've done, what I'm going to do, I've set up Instagram, Kneppy Invests, and I'm going to use that to just upload photos, a lot of photos, continually, I think, photos. And I've also bought a DJI Osmo 360 camera. I've already tested it a few times. In fact, I recorded my last hike up North Brother Mountain. In fact, I might upload that onto this channel. And I do plan to do a lot of videos. Now, I don't think I'm going to do these highly edited videos where it's going to take me all night or that sort of stuff. I'll probably just take a video and then maybe combine all the videos of the one hike into one longer video, or maybe I'll just upload all these separate videos onto this particular channel. So that is a plan moving forward. And I might upload the videos to other places as well. I'm not sure. Does Instagram have videos? Not TikTok. I have no idea. Haven't really thought that far ahead just yet. But definitely Instagram for photos and videos, or YouTube for videos. And that is my plan. And I'll be back on November 7, and hopefully everything has gone to plan. Now, I do expect that possibly I might miss at least 1, 2, 3 hikes, but even if it's raining or the weather's bad, I plan to do the hike because I do have all the equipment. I have rain jackets, that sort of thing, and rain does not deter me. So I'm just trying to think what could really deter me from doing a hike. Snowstorm, that's it. Even snowstorm. Yeah, snowstorm, maybe flooding, flash flooding. If I die, that could really deter me from doing any hikes as well. So let's hope that does not happen. Okay, that's it. That is my plans moving forward. So from September 2nd to November 7, well, actually the first hike is September 3rd, United States time, and the last hike is either going to be November 4 or November 5, depending on which hike I decide to do last. If I do Cactus to Clouds, that will be November 4 because I'm flying out November 5. But if it's not, my last hike will be November 5, and it's either going to be Mount Bordy or there is another hike in that area I wouldn't mind doing. Okay. I think it's called Cucamonga's Peak. Anyway, so that's it. Have a good day. And I don't know what to say to end this video. Okay, so that's it. See ya. Bye.